After 5 weeks of testimony, the jurors in the trial of that 70s show actor Danny Masterson are deadlocked. But Judge Charlene Olmedo says that the nearly 3 days of deliberation they spent was not long enough for her to declare a mistrial and has ordered the jury to resume deliberations after Thanksgiving break. So the jurors will be back on the 9th floor of the Claire Shortridge Foltz Criminal Justice Center in downtown LA on Monday, November 28th to decide whether Danny will be found guilty or not guilty of the 3 counts of rape he has been charged with, or whether they will continue to remain deadlocked. I will, of course, be reporting on the verdict when it finally comes in. But during the first round of jury deliberations, I sat down with pop culture commentator Meredith Lynch to discuss the case and the recent viral tweets Leah Remini has made about the Church of Scientology and the accusations against former LAPD captain Corey Palka, who is being investigated for possibly conspiring with CBS and its former leader, Les Moonves. Palka worked as a private bodyguard for years, and when Moonves was facing allegations of sexual misconduct, it's reported that Palka provided a confidential police report to him. Leah Remini says that Palka was also very friendly with the Church of Scientology and questions whether there were any improprieties made by Palka when she filed a police report to locate Shelley Miscavige, who is the wife of the leader of Scientology, David Miscavige, and hasn't been seen in the public since August 2007. In addition to this criminal case, there is also a civil case against the Church of Scientology for the role they allegedly played in the Danny Masterson case. We get into all the details of the case, plus Leah's tweets, and the church itself. Plus, find out what happened when former Scientologist Lisa Marie Presley was asked to testify against the church. Check it out. Danny Masterson, most people know him as Hyde from that 70s show, but right now he is on trial. He has pled not guilty to 3 counts of forcible rape. He has remained free on $3.3 million bail, and he faces 45 years to life if convicted. Now, on November 1st, Leah Remini tweeted out a 36-point thread that was so explosive, Danny Masterson's attorney actually asked the judge to declare a mistrial, which was denied. In the tweet thread, Leah alleged many things, but the thing that stood out first was Leah stating that this trial is not getting enough attention on social media. So that's why I wanted to co-host today with someone who I know can bring a lot of attention to very important topics, Meredith Lynch. Now, if you don't know who Meredith is, then I don't know what rock you're living under, because Meredith is the woman that made Bethany Frankel show her true colors after she posted a TikTok series about Bethany that Bethany didn't like very much. So Bethany sent her a cease and desist and essentially tried to destroy her, I would say, but it totally backfired. And now TikTok hates Bethany, and Meredith is my new friend. Welcome, Meredith.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be here. And
is that a fair intro?
I think that is a very fair intro. You know, I've come to have a very different perspective on the cease and desist because I've met incredible people like you.
Exactly. I mean, what I love is, you know, some people really, they got to know me through TikTok. I joined TikTok during the pandemic, and then I sort of left for a while and went to Instagram. And when I came back, you know, when I left, there weren't very many tea accounts. And when I came back, there were a lot. And you were the one I started following kind of immediately. And it was with all this drama. But I knew when we wanted to talk about Scientology and Leah Remini and the Danny Masterson trial, you would be the perfect co-host for this because you get into the nitty-gritty of it like I do.
Thank you. Yes. And I think, you know, it's a lot about wealth and power in this trial. And I think that's a very common occurring theme in celebrity and media. And I think that's something that a lot of these tea accounts are pulling the curtain back on.
This is very true. And, you know, because one thing that also stood out, you know, Leah Remini, she's been outspoken about Scientology. I mean, she has had, I don't know how many seasons of her show there was, but this has been going on for a while. And note that we're also going to be referencing a lot of Tony Ortega. Tony Ortega is journalist, court reporter. He has been at the Danny Masterson trial every single day. So I would say, you know, go to tonyortega.substack.com if you want to look at some really detailed information about every day of the case. But that's, you know, we're going to be referencing his articles and his podcast a lot, in addition to a lot of other things. But you're right. You know, one of the things Leah said was, if it wasn't true what I was saying, come sue me. You're a $1 billion
multi-billion-dollar empire. If you really thought what I was saying was untrue, why wouldn't you come after me? For people who don't know much about this case, let's just give a little bit of backstory. So Danny was charged in 2020 with sexually assaulting 3 women in separate incidences that allegedly occurred between 2001 and 2003 at his Hollywood Hills home. Now, so far, we have heard from 4 Jane Does who have each given very detailed and very graphic accounts of what occurred during those incidents. And the reason Leah is getting very involved in this case is because she's saying Scientology needs to be a co-defendant in this case. Now, the Judge Olmedo, has limited the amount of information about Scientology that can be introduced to this case. She basically said, look, I'll allow enough that can sort of like go along with they have to tell a story, because essentially these women reported to Scientology first, which according to Leah, that's the rules. You're not allowed to go to, civil authorities. And those authorities in Scientology never reported it, or they basically told them, you're not allowed to say rape. You're not allowed to say that he sexually assaulted you because he's a very important person in Scientology. And they also believe that anything that bad happens to you, you sort of bring on yourself, which Leah talks about in her tweets, which we will also get into. I mean, I didn't know much about Scientology before I started kind of diving into this case, other than what, Leah Remini has sort of talked about. Did you know much about it before this case?
I feel like I do know a decent amount about Scientology. I watched a lot of the Leah Remini show that was on, I think it was on A&E a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I also think I started digging into Scientology a lot during the Tom Cruise, Katie Holmes divorce.
Okay.
So I feel like I also think like living in Los Angeles, it's kind of like this thing that is in the background. We have ads for it on TV. Have you seen these Scientology Center ads?
I haven't seen the ads.
Gosh. There's this Scientology center that's opening. And I mean, there's all sorts of Scientology centers.
Yeah.
But I think when I really got interested in it was when people started saying, and I don't know the validity of this, that Tom Cruise was no longer having contact with Suri, his daughter, because she was a suppressive personality, which is a term that has come up a lot in this trial.
Yeah.
And the whole concept of suppressive personality in Scientology is that like somebody is just inherently kind of evil.
Yeah.
And they bring you down. And it's really sort of how they, I think it's the way that they excommunicate people from the church, right? Is to say you're a suppressive person. And when it came out with Suri, she was like 5 years old.
And she was already a suppressive person?
Yes, that was what I was reading. Now, I mean, the church had told him that Suri was actually a suppressive person at 5. God. And so I was just fascinated by that. But now I feel like I've been hearing that terminology. And I think, there's something to be said about the way in which, to Leah's point, this trial is not getting, I mean, we live in Los Angeles, right? It's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
I am not hearing about it the way I'm hearing about other things that are happening in this city right now. And I think that's because the church is so powerful that they are able to hold things back. They are able to play off of it really well.
Well, and that's another, in addition to this November 1st tweet that Leah came out with, it was November 10th, she came out with another 20-point tweet that was referencing this LAPD, this retired LAPD commander who is now being investigated because he was a private security guard for Les Moonves, and it's now coming out that he essentially gave him information about this investigation that was coming down. Les Moonves eventually did step down for sexual misconduct, but apparently this LAPD commander was giving him the heads up that, hey, this is coming. And so Leah, essentially was like, well, you're also the commander that was in charge when I filed a missing person report on Shelley Miscavige. So what is your connection? And so that's what, we'll sort of get into. Now, the November 1st tweet, Leah Remini started out by saying, did you know that if you are a Scientologist, you are forbidden from contacting law enforcement when another Scientologist has committed a crime against you? If you do, you will be declared a suppressive person, like you talked about, and lose your family, friends, and livelihood overnight. And like Leah says, the fact that these 3 women even came forward, this is why there needs to be a light shine on this, because they have lost everything. They are being allegedly stalked. And that's why now these women also do have a civil lawsuit against the Church of Scientology, separate from this case against Danny Masterson. But she's saying they've lost everything. They don't have anything to gain. Any business that they had would literally shut down overnight. All of their family members, all of their friends would stop talking to them immediately. What's really interesting, she says, because the founder, L. Ron Hubbard, he passed away in, I believe, 1986. He started this in 1950. And for those who don't know him, he was a science fiction writer. He started this. He dies in 1986. And because Scientology policies can never be altered, they must be interpreted literally, these writings, they just will never change. And so these people just live by this book and do exactly what it says, which is wild to me. But I guess it's no different than, I guess, any other religion, right?
I guess not. But I mean, isn't there some type of checks and balances around, there is separation of church and state. But just because we have that does not mean that a church can act in such a way that is illegal against the laws of a country that it is established in, correct? Yeah. I mean, all religions have been through this.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they say that, they call laws that are for regular people are WOG laws. So we're WOGs because we're not Scientologists. And according to this tweet thread, there's I think 25,000 Scientologists, I guess everywhere, which seems like a really low number. I thought there'd be much more, but it's a very small percentage. But that means the billions of people who aren't, they consider are not smart. They're WOGs, we're not intelligent people, all of these things. But they believe that their laws supersede the laws of the WOG. And that's why they have this system where they say, you come to us and we decide how to handle it internally, and we don't go outside because we supersede that. Now, if that's the case, how can that function? And how can that be functioning in a tax-exempt church?
Well, I mean, that's one of the interesting things about churches, about religion, is that they don't have to file the same type of tax paperwork that other nonprofits do.
Really?
Yes. So this kind of gets into there are some other celebrities who have churches.
Okay.
And that's the difference with a religious organization versus if you're, a nonprofit that is the Boys and Girls Club or YMCA. You have to file differently than a church. There is a difference. It's I can't remember the forms, but you don't have to declare.
Wait, when you say celebrities who have church, now I know that there was a rumor going around that the Kardashians had a church. I don't know if that's true or not, but are there multiple celebrities who do have churches?
From what I know, and this is just, this is alleged.
Yeah.
I believe that Kris Jenner has a church. It is somewhere in Calabasas.
Okay.
And it is led by Pastor Brad, I think. If
Really?
you remember him, he's been around for years.
Okay.
And so people say that, they funnel money through that church. And that is just what people say. I'm simply reporting.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It is kind of an interesting thing that you wouldn't have to file the same way. And so I think that what that creates is it creates a culture of not having accountability, right?
Yes.
And so what I want to say is I'm sure there are lots of churches that, because of this, they don't have the same tax paperwork, but if they had an incident like this, they would go directly to the police. But it does kind of create a culture of secrecy when you don't have to do that, right?
Yeah, this is true. I mean, Leah tweeted out, so in her November 10th tweet, she had a picture of Corey Palka. Corey Palka is a 34-year vet of the LAPD and a longtime captain of the Hollywood Division. And in this picture, it's him accepting a check from Scientology for $20,000. She also tweeted a series of email exchanges that I believe Tony Ortega got a handle of that just showed really friendliness between the LAPD and Scientology. One of the email exchanges was how now that Leah's second season of her show was coming out, that they need a direct line of contact to be able to report any harassment because hate is like building up. So they had like essentially an assigned personnel to kind of take all of their complaints. They also they wanted to get in contact with like the chief of police of Detroit. And so they were able to facilitate that. It was a really friendly relationship. And Leah says that when she, went to the LAPD and filed a missing persons report on Shelley Miscavige, that they essentially said, case is closed. We talked to her. Everything's good. And she said she found it out through the press. They didn't even come back to her, even though she was the one that filed the report. She said she spent $50,000 of her own money trying to find Shelley. Now, Shelley Miscavige is David Miscavige's wife. David Miscavige is who is running Scientology. And she says she hasn't been seen since I think 2006.
Right. I think she wasn't at Tom Cruise's wedding. I think that was like the tip off, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it is interesting because, if this woman is okay,
yeah,
right? And she just does not want to be contacted, maybe this has been one of my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
My thought has been maybe she left the church.
Okay.
And she just wants to live her life. And I'm not saying, but maybe she did.
Yeah.
And maybe she is totally fine. And I've heard rumors that she lives in Florida. I don't know if that's true, but it is kind of like one of those things that gives you pause.
Yeah.
But then it's also one of those things that you're like, wow, if this church is that intense and that, some of the women, the Jane Does, are reporting in the case of being harassed by the Church of Scientology,
yeah,
right? Maybe you would just say listen, I'm going into hiding. I don't want anything to do with this. And that, it is the job of the LAPD or any police department to investigate somebody. And then if someone's okay, then to walk away.
Yeah.
Then to say, okay, great. I'm glad you're okay. Bye.
And I think that Leah's issue with it is because, she says you sort of hand over almost like power of attorney once you become a Scientologist and they become your representative. So what she's saying is, her and Tony believe that Shelley is in this mountain. There's this sort of Scientologist mountain enclave that's basically, they're saying, like a prison. And they believe that them saying, okay, case is closed, we discovered her, because you can have a representative in Scientology, they could have just talked to her representative and not her. And that would have been considered okay because they're like, we're her representative. We speak on her behalf. So that's why they're saying why won't you just to shut me down, just show her somewhere.
Yeah.
And Tony sort of his theory was, well, it's because by acknowledging you at all means they're wrong. Because once you walk away from Scientology, you don't exist. And to even acknowledge Leah, he's saying it would be you're going against what you believe because in Scientology you don't exist. But all of this is all of this power is really insane, and I think is playing a major part in the Danny Masterson trial. I mean, first of all, I'm really surprised by I guess I'm not surprised because it is your family, but Danny Masterson is married to Bijou Phillips.
Right.
They've been married since 2011. Bijou Phillips is half sisters with Mackenzie Phillips, who, was an actress. She was on One Day at a Time, and also half sister of China Phillips, who many remember from the group Wilson Phillips. China is married to Billy Baldwin now. And she went viral over TikTok because, there was that Holy Spirit activate, Holy Spirit.
Wait, was that her?
That was her.
Oh my God. How did I not know that was her? Okay.
So, their fathers, the Mama and Papas, which has the song California Dreamin'.
Right.
She now has, I think, a blog called California Preaching. She's an evangelical, I believe.
Okay.
She's so what's surprising is all of these people are showing up to the trial often. Mackenzie Phillips has been there several days. China Phillips has been there several days. Billy Baldwin has been there. All of the Masterson brothers and sisters have been there. Bijou has been there every day from what I understand. And there has been an unconfirmed Scientology representative at the case every single day. And today, as we're recording this, we're in day 2 of deliberation. The Scientology lawyer apparently showed up today, according to Tony Ortega's notes. So all of that is happening in the galley. And the women, the Jane Does who were on the stand, we're hearing some really, really terrible and awful accounts of essentially it's a pattern of behavior that Danny
Right.
had. And as they're talking about it, it's, it usually involved plying them with some sort of alcohol and forcing them into a jacuzzi or like getting them into a shower and then forcing them into a bed. And these women were Scientologists at the time. And so they went to what they think they were called their ethics manager, and they reported this and they were told, no, like you can't say anything. And what did you do to bring this on you? And, they've sort of just been dealing with this. Now, Danny's defense has been, I think they're only coming after me because Leah Remini came out with this series and she convinced them to do that, which is not a defense.
It's not a defense. And if Leah speaking out has made more people be able to share their experiences and what happened to them, I mean, more power to it, I mean, I think we have a culture of accountability that is changing that did not exist in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2000. So I think that's a big part of it. And so you can't, it's interesting too, because for them to be like, oh, this is happening because Leah Remini is coming out actually makes it more connected to Scientology, which if they don't want to do that isn't a great defense.
This is true. Now, Danny, of course, Danny didn't even take the stand. I mean, I'm not surprised. Right. And I don't think they had any witnesses on the defense side. Their whole defense was based on trying to, I guess, get these women's memories. Like, it happened so long ago. Your statements are inconsistent. I think that was their whole tactic. But one interesting witness was Marie Presley.
And I just read about this.
So Lisa Marie, obviously, most people know, Elvis's only daughter, yada, 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 was a Scientologist for a long time. I think she left in 2014.
She's been gone for a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so Lisa had been subpoenaed by the DA Mueller. And it was sort of like a last minute interview, which of course the defense team was like, no. And the judge asked, like, well, why are we bringing Lisa Marie? Please explain. And they did this outside. The jury wasn't there. And the DA said, look, we have evidence to show that Jane Doe 1 was about to go to the police. And Lisa Marie will testify that Scientology asked her to dissuade Jane Doe 1 from going to the police. Which is a huge thing because that essentially would prove obstruction of justice by by Scientology. So Lisa Marie's attorneys again contacted the DA and they were like, hold up. You want our client to come out there and admit to a crime that she participated in. If you force her to do that, she will plead the fifth. The DA said, look, first of all, I think the statute has passed.
Right.
But I will give immunity if you testify. So they're like, fine. So Lisa Marie gives her statement. The DA gives a statement to the defense team. They mull it over. But ultimately, the judge decided, no, I can't let it in. I can let in what they called, let me see exactly what they said. She can come and testify about prior consistent statements, but she can't get into any of the Scientology stuff. That will have to be saved for the civil lawsuit.
So they're saying that is too closely connected to the church.
Exactly.
Okay.
Which just, it's like, I think that's the hardest part is there's this evidence that exists because according to Tony and Leah, who knows because she was in this organization for years, Scientology's document everything because again, there is a pecking order and you have to go through this and they document everything because ultimately what it sounds like is they want to keep all this information almost as like, I don't want to say blackmail, but the more information you have on people to use against them. So they document all of this stuff. And she's saying it lives in a file somewhere.
Right.
And if they just opened it up, you would see that she made this complaint and someone talked to her and someone told her not to go here and all of these things. But the fact that Lisa Marie was ready to go on record to say that this church told me that like I had to make her not go to the police, I mean, that would be huge.
Right. Okay, so here's my question to you. Let's say this was not the Church of Scientology.
Yeah.
Let's pretend that this happened at, I'm going to make it up. It happened at Blockbuster Video.
Okay.
I'm going to use that because I don't think it exists anymore.
Because you've been watching the new Netflix show.
Let's say this happened at Blockbuster Corporate. Now everybody from Blockbuster Corporate's going to be like, how dare you? But let's say this happened there. Could you separate the company from the actions? I don't think you could. I think, right? I mean, because there would be policies and procedures, and I'm not saying that they would be right,
Yeah.
but there would be documentation. So it's sort of interesting to me that if this was not Scientology, would it be as removed from the case as they're making it?
Yeah, I don't think so at all. I mean, I think that like that's why we see lawsuits against giant organizations when things happen internally with employees, right? How is this any different? I think you're
really
right.
not. It's same thing as like a Weinstein thing in a way, because he was using his position of power in the movie industry. So it wasn't just him that was on trial. I don't know. I think that's interesting.
Well, okay, so when the Catholic Church went down, because
Right.
at some point it went down, how did all that happen, right? Because like someone had to at some point say like this is crimes are happening.
Right. Well, I would say that, it became both and. It became both the Catholic Church and the individuals, right? So the Catholic Church was being held accountable, and so were the priests, and so were the people who helped cover it up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who ends up in the Catholic Church. That's who ends up getting sued, is the Catholic Church itself, not the individual priests. Now, I don't know if that's different in the sense that there's a civil trial going on. So there's that.
Yeah.
And then also, like, if you think about it, the Catholic Church, unlike some other denominations, priests don't have their own possessions. They don't have their own money. So you go for the church. So if Danny Masterson wasn't his own established person outside of the church as well, would it be more after the church? I don't know.
Well, I guess that's why ultimately, well, I mean, if I think about it, the Catholic Church, did any of those priests go to jail?
So in Massachusetts, there were a few who went to jail.
Okay.
One of them was murdered in
Oh,
jail.
wow.
Yes.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. And now when you look at Danny Masterson, it's like, I think he should be in prison.
Well, yeah.
Right?
What do you think he will be found guilty?
Yes,
do?
I do. I don't know if he's going to get life in prison, but I think he is going to be found guilty.
Okay.
I think if he wasn't, I think we would have gotten a verdict a lot sooner.
This is true, right? We're on day 2. Hopefully, by the time we upload this, that they will have a verdict. I mean, even if they find him guilty, though, sentencing usually happens doesn't happen right away.
No, it doesn't happen
usually
right
happens
away.
like a couple months later, right?
Right.
And then we have the civil lawsuit that I guess will happen. I guess I'm not more interested in the civil lawsuit, but I am in the sense of the information that will have to come out of it about the church will have to respond to every single complaint. Like they have to have a response to it. And I'm curious how they're going to handle that.
So you brought up a point earlier that I want to go back to, and that was the way one of the things that Scientology does, I do remember this, is that they have very, very close relationships with law enforcement. They establish them before anything happens. So every year they have some type of event that involves law enforcement. And so I don't know if it's just specific to the LAPD, because obviously they have a presence in other places. They have a presence in New York. I mean, I remember there was a Scientology center in Boston. So they have a presence in other places. But I think one of the things that they do is they really lean heavily on the fact that they are philanthropic. So in this new commercial that I saw for the new Scientology, I believe it's like showing off that they have a new center and they have a a TV channel. Like they're going to have their own TV channel.
Okay.
And one of the things that they played up in the commercial with David Miscavige is in the commercial is that they do a lot of humanitarian work and they make a lot of donations for causes that are not related to Scientology.
Like what? I wonder what are their humanitarian causes?
It was very general
Okay.
in the commercial, but I mean, it's a really short commercial.
Yeah.
But I just think that's interesting
Mhm.
because I think it's a way that they probably are. And it's interesting. I've been in LA now for 2 years. I'd never seen a Scientology ad until like 2 weeks ago, and now I've seen them a few times.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the ways that they are getting ahead of this.
Okay.
And also, like, to that point, like, you're newish to LA. I'm newish to LA. It's not an easy city to navigate.
Yeah.
And so I could see, like, how someone comes into this city and is like, I don't know a lot of people. I spend all this time in my car. Like, I want to have success in the industry. Like, Scientology must, in some ways, look appealing, right?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, their whole claim is like, look at all of the celebrities we have. In reality, they probably have like 0.0001%, if that.
Right.
But because they're so high profile and they flaunt them around like mascots, I do think that people think, well, if I become a Scientologist, then maybe I'll get that audition and maybe I'll be the star.
Totally. And if you are in with them, you have a level of protection.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe some potential access. So I think, in a town that is really built on the industry and built on connections, wow, here's this way to get in and potentially have success. Like Leah Remini is a great example. Right?
Totally. But I think it's funny as we're learning so much about MLMs too. The reality is it's no different than an MLM because sure, that's what they'll sell you, but there's only a small percentage that gets those benefits. Everybody else is just a worker bee and you'll just be feeding all your money to like support them being able to like put these bigger players out,
Oh, totally. 1,000%. You are literally just you're like you're a minion to them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's strength in numbers and they can sort of hypnotize you with, well, we need Tom Cruise to succeed. Now, what do you think of like all these Scientology adjacent people? I just got to ask because there are people who like, they're not Scientologists, but I think they're very Scientologist adjacent.
I know they're on Wikipedia. There's like a list of like all the Scientologists and the ones who have left, but I haven't kept up with it recently. So I don't like, I know there was always rumors about like Will and Jada, right?
Sure.
But it's like that was never confirmed. So I feel like I only know the people that have come out and said they are. And what's interesting is I never actually realized when they left. I thought like Juliette Lewis, for example, I thought she was still part of the church.
Oh, she's not.
And she's not.
What about Laura
Prepon, she left.
She left.
Exactly. Like, and I didn't even realize this. And that's why, let me pull up this page.
Yeah. Well, because they don't probably want to. Also, too, like, it must be really painful to leave, right? Even if that's what you believe, even if you're so done, like, not everyone is going to have a Leah Remini reaction. And that's okay.
Yeah. And that's why, like, I love Juliette Lewis. I will love her till the day I die. She's amazing, which is why I always just sort of like just ignored that because also she said it helped her overcome her addiction. And how I'm never going to like, if any sort of plan, church, anything helps you overcome something, I'm never going to be like, oh, but they're, I think they're a cult. Like if it wasn't a cult for you, that's great.
Right.
But it seems like for a lot of people, cult-like things were happening to them and it was forcing them into really bad situations. I'm glad it didn't happen to you, but I think that like as like Leah Remini is really respected. And so I think as she sort of told about her experience and she was able to share the experience of other people who didn't have a voice.
Yes.
It was like they couldn't turn a blind eye to that for much longer,
Right.
I think this is the list. Current science. Okay. Former members. Okay. We have Paul Haggis, as we know. So that's another. So Paul Haggis was on trial in New York. And that was another big case where he was charged with like, I don't know how many counts of sexual misconduct, sexual assault. And he had denounced Scientology, I believe in 2000, let's see, 2000, doesn't really say, but he left, 2009, he left the church. And he said that the only reason he was getting these charges is because Scientology was coming after him. Now, there was never could be any connection made to the women charged. The woman who charged wasn't involved in Scientology. There could never be a connection made that they were even paid off or any of that happened.
Sure.
So all of that. But I think Leah Remini did testify on his behalf to say, like, you know, they are known for doing these things. But anyways, he's got found guilty of liable for $10 million. So, and I think he had a fair trial. But there are, let's see who else left. Yeah, Juliette Lewis. Oh, so she just left in 2021. I don't know why I said it like that.
2021.
She left in the year 2021.
So Lisa Marie's been out since 2012, which is interesting.
Okay.
Right? Because
Yeah.
that's long before I think Leah started doing that would, you know, all this I don't want to call it content.
Yeah.
Investigative work, shining a light. I mean, it's really important work.
Yeah.
So
Laura Prepon left 2016. Yeah, Leah left a year after Lisa Marie. So I wonder if that was even because I do remember Lisa Marie being a big face for a long time. So I almost wondered if that like really made Leah be like, "Whoa, that's huge." Like, imagine if Tom Cruise left, right?
oh my God. That would be so amazing if Tom Cruise left.
He would never.
He would
though.
never. He'll never leave.
No,
He'll never leave.
he's so powerful. He is his like own god in there. I have to imagine.
Do you I mean, so David Miscavige is like the head of Scientology.
Yeah, like what is his exact? Let me look up and see what his exact title is because I've actually never looked at what his full title is. Okay, it says he's the leader. It just says leader of Scientology, which is such a name, right?
Right.
I'm just the leader.
Well, because one wonders, right? I feel like they would tap Tom Cruise to take over
Oh yeah, if anything happened
if something
to David.
were to happen to him, but they must be around the same age.
Yeah, he was born in 1960. Tom was probably born around the same time.
Yeah.
They
look
even look
kind of
alike. I was
alike,
going to say
don't
they look
they?
kind of like twins. Wait, what if? No.
I mean, honestly,
Yeah, they kind of look alike. But like, where's Shelley? Where's your wife? Where is your wife? That's weird.
you're right. And it would take so little to dispel it, right?
Yeah.
Like you could clear it up forever if you just showed one photo, one recording. I mean, yeah, I agree.
Again, I still go back to in this day and age where everybody is suing everybody for defamation. Everyone. It's so easy.
I've heard about that.
If you have billions of dollars, Leah Remini, I'm sure, has a great net worth, but if you have billions of dollars, you could easily take her on.
Do you think she has things on them like that she has not exposed and that is their fear? Because, and not necessarily her own experiences, but people have shared so much with her. And, you know, I'm sure there's things that people have shared that she has decided not to share, or perhaps they have shared with her and then they have said, you know what, I actually don't want that to come out. So is there fear that by going after her publicly, they could potentially awaken something much larger? So for them, the easier thing is to just ignore.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because she's already said that there are hundreds of crimes that have been swept under the rug. I mean, if we even go back to in the Danny Masterson trial and Jane Doe number 1, the church settled with her for $400,000. So there was already an acknowledgement
Wow.
at some point that, you know, something happened,
Yeah.
right? And so I think very much that they don't want to have to respond because, I'm sorry, why would she be doing all this? She's not winning anything. At least let's imagine when she started this. When she started this, she was not getting anything other than harassment from the church.
Right.
So how can you not believe her?
Oh, you mean the Jane Does?
Well, Leah.
Oh, Leah.
yeah.
Completely.
And so I just I think that, yeah, I think she has a lot on them. And I think she's every day giving us a little bit more like, hey, Because if she gave it to us all at once, we probably would be like, okay, this is a lot.
Right. And she has a TV show. I totally get that.
And so she's like, here, let me show you this. That's why that tweet thread of like, did you know in Scientology? And she does it like right during the trial. So it's like, we understand like why these women, why this is coming almost 20 years later. It's because they didn't have any other. They were following their church. They were following their leader. They thought they were doing the right thing.
They were getting pressure from other high-ranking members, too. I mean, even to go and complain about him, because I'm sure he was a high-ranking member, because they want people who are notable names. Now, I heard yesterday, and then I tried to do a little cursory research, but I didn't really find a lot, that his parents are two of the biggest donors to the Church of Scientology, Danny Masterson's parents. I didn't know that. I didn't realize he came from like a ton of money.
I didn't either.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that was just something I heard really quickly. So I don't want to, but I think that it's scary to go up against anyone who has money, has access, and then you add in a powerful organization on top of that.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. And you also have to put it into the context of like, what was 2000 like?
Yeah.
So different. There was no social media. What were you going to do? Put up an aim away message?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was no way to publicly get support. I'm sure a lot of these, like, did these women even know about each other?
They had to stay hidden. I mean, they had no support at all. I was trying to look up the name of, they call people like Danny something like a super stat or something like that. There's
right.
Like,
he's so high ranking because he makes so much money. And so there's this whole almost like pecking order of Scientology, right?
Yeah. The Masterson family, first of all, I didn't realize, I knew he had the one brother that was on Malcolm in the Middle, but I didn't realize that he had like, so, because they were saying, again, all these people showed up for him, during the trial. His sister, Alana Masterson, do you remember on The Walking Dead? She was the brown hair girl. I think she was in the lesbian relationship with the doctor.
I remember her.
Anyways, I didn't realize how many Mastersons there were in Hollywood. Let's see. The Masterson family. Are they,
Well, so he was a child actor.
Okay.
I did see that. But it's hard to know when I was trying to figure out when they got involved in Scientology, because like Leah Remini is an interesting one because she wasn't born into it. And
she wasn't?
No.
Oh, okay.
Her mother joined it when she was a child though. But something I heard I think it was Tony Ortega say yesterday is that the majority of Scientologists who are out there now, as people like Danny Masterson and stuff get older, are actually born into it.
Yeah.
And I think that must be so much harder.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you have been getting indoctrinated into this since the time you were born, then how do you don't know anything else?
And this is why, they say that, okay, Danny Masterson's mom, Carol, was a talent manager and was also sort of producer. His father was an insurance agent. But yeah, I mean, he was born into it. And now he's married to Bijou, who I guess has converted, or I don't know how has become a Scientologist. And I don't, it's like, as much as I wanted this to be focused on Danny, but there's so much with Bijou and her history that it's like, I don't know. I feel like her history with men and relationships and the fact that she's with Danny, who is being charged with these things, I don't know. They sort of, I think there might be a reason behind this. And I don't know if she is, I don't want to say she's a damaged person, but like, it just sort of makes sense that maybe she would be with somebody who has this personality. Because when I read about Bijou Phillips, first of all, there's like all this history. I mean, she grew up, her dad was the lead singer of like the Mamas and the Papas. Right. And like he had his own, like drugs and,
So her dad and Mackenzie's dad are the same person.
The same dad. So it's like they all have Mackenzie Phillips, China Phillips, and Bijou Phillips all have the same dad, but they have different moms.
Okay.
And so he was, I think he had a really bad drug problem, him and his wife, Bijou's mother. And so he ended up getting sole custody of Bijou and raising her. Well, when she was about 14, Mackenzie Phillips then comes out and says, I've been having a sexual relationship with my father.
Yes.
And initially, Bijou was like, kind of like, no, that's like not true. And that sort of, she didn't really believe it. Apparently China did believe her, which is interesting.
I remember this now. Yep.
But like, I think that sort of, that created that rift. But then Bijou was also like, if you thought my dad could have molested me, why would you let him raise me all these years? Like you were adults. But, there was all that sort of messed up background. Obviously, people talk about Bijou, being a bully on the set of Bully, like being a mean girl on the set of Bully, like all of these things. There were like kind of crazy rumors about her like losing her virginity to like a 31-year-old rock band member. Like, I think she had a very tumultuous upbringing and lived a very like hard life very fast, and like sort of then settled now and wants to be sort of calm. But I don't know. I just think that sometimes when you have a lot of trauma in your past, it really can dictate the sort of people you still attract to you, right?
Right. And so you're saying she did not grow up a Scientologist.
She didn't grow up. Apparently, she became a Scientologist once she got with Danny.
So it's also interesting because from an outside perspective, couldn't going into a relationship with someone who is really solidified in this faith seem like you were getting some type of stability that you never had, right? Like you have not saying it's right, don't agree with it, but you like there's a code of conduct, there is security, you have a very high ranking position, and people who are always going to protect you and your family because of how high ranking you are. There's security there.
Totally. I think you're right. I totally agree. I think she was looking for that, and he did provide that for her because he's a well-respected member of a very powerful organization.
Right. And if you think about it, I mean, I have known for years, like I knew as a kid that Tom Cruise was a Scientologist. And a lot of people say that that is what fueled his divorce from Nicole Kidman, right? So I've known that for years. I knew very, very, like, I guess in the back of my mind years ago that Danny Masterson was a Scientologist. I think that he probably, during that 70s show years, they really probably tried to keep that under wraps.
That makes sense.
Because it's not the vibe of how you want to, like, this is the cast. It is Ashton Kutcher, it's Mila Kunis. They're cool, they're hip, they're young, right? They're like young Hollywood. You don't really want people wondering if this man is connected to like Tom Cruise wearing a naval uniform for no reason. Like, have you ever seen when they dress them up? Like, have you seen how they dress them up? Oh my God, you got to look up how they dress them up. They dress them up like they're in the Navy, the Sea Org.
Oh God, okay, let me look it up.
So, it doesn't fit with the vibe. And at the time, it was a lot easier.
Why do they dress like that?
It's in a way, and I've always said this, and I think people think I'm crazy when I say this, like, to me, it feels very disrespectful to the armed forces that you dress them up to look like.
Now, when you become a Scientologist, is Sea Org the first level? Is that just where is that a branch that you can become into? Because I did remember, so Leah said that Sea Org members make $50 a week and basically spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, silencing those who are speaking against Scientology. She said like that's like the role of a Sea Org member. I don't know what else,
I thought that also, look at that. Doesn't that look like a military recruiting poster? So I thought that if you were in the Sea Org too, that you basically were like, you could be assigned anywhere. So I thought like you could also be assigned to like cleaning David Miscavige's house.
Oh.
You're basically giving your life in service to Scientology. And I don't know if you do it like for your entire time. I think it's more of like a young person commitment.
Got it.
And then the higher you get up, I thought you dress differently. So
let's see on the Scientology website, they say the Sea Organization is a religious order for the Scientology religion and is composed of the singularly most dedicated Scientologists, individuals who have committed their lives to the volunteer service of their religion. The Sea Organization is a fraternal religious order and is not incorporated. Members of the Sea organization are therefore wholly responsible to the Church of Scientology to which they are assigned and are responsible, as are other staff. Oh, it's so volunteer. So I'm surprised they even get paid $50.
That's probably like a stipend.
Today, some 5,000 members of the Sea Org hold staff position in upper-level Scientology church organizations around the world, ensuring the religion is available to the millions of Scientology parishioners who live and work outside the church.
I wonder if they also do a lot of the recruiting.
That's what it sounds like, because it's like, it looks like you can be a Sea Org recruiter. So it sounds like, again, this is the minion that we talk about. Like,
right.
When you come in, you're like, I want to be a star, but they're like, here you go, you're going to be a Sea Org, go bring us some more. I remember when I worked in DC, I had this boss, and he, I think he said it was in the 80s, he was walking by a Scientology center, and, he didn't really know anything about it, and he was like, they were just like, come in, and they were like being very, and then like he said, like, he was trapped there for 3.5 hours.
Oh, that's what they do. I have a friend who did it too. It was the funniest, honestly, the story of her going in there is the funniest story, but it's also terrifying. So she went in with a friend. She was young. I mean, she was probably like 18. Her and her friend go in because they were like, why not? Right? They go in and she went in with her friend, and he was a guy. And so they separate them right away. Like, they separate them. And she told me that the woman who took her into another room reminded her of Ivanka Trump.
Oh my God.
She said she was, beautiful.
Yeah.
Very aspirational, very well dressed. And they had them take a quiz.
Oh God. What was the quiz?
So you can take the quiz online.
Okay.
I've taken the quiz. It's so anyway, she takes the quiz, and basically they say to her, like, then they take the results and they look at them and they come back to her and they're like, these are really concerning.
Concerning?
Yeah. And they're like, has anything happened to you recently that like has been, emotional? And she's like, well, my dad just died. And they're like, well, that's it.
But don't you think that's their tactic?
Yes,
because then they bring on the auditors and they're like, we need to now audit you.
Yes. And so then they said to her, like, listen, you're never going to be okay with like your dad dying if you don't buy our book today.
Buy?
Yeah. So they wanted her to buy, like, it's one of L. Ron Hubbard's books that you get started with. And so I think that's sort of how they rope you in.
Okay.
And she was like, I don't have any money. And they're like, you can charge it. And she was like, I don't even, like, no, I'm sorry. So anyway, they were stuck there for a couple of hours, similar to your boss. And they were separated the whole time. And she asked if she could go see her friend. And I mean, this is, her telling me what her experience. I believe she asked to go see her friend multiple times, and they were like, no, he's like really processing right now.
Oh my God.
And he like really doesn't want to be interrupted. And so then she found out that he was saying the same thing. He's like, I want to be back with my friend. And they were like, no, she's like really going through it right now. So yeah, I think they just that's the other thing. And I think this is so, like, these Jane Does, they did not know each other.
Yeah.
They keep people very separated, right? Because when you're separated, you feel isolated.
Yeah. I'm obviously have started following, well, not started, I've been following, but now it's like, I'm like always waiting now for Leah's latest updates and her tweets. Oh, well, first, the LAPD did respond to her, basically calling them out, saying like, where is Shelley? You need to do something. And the LAPD did respond. They sent a news release out that said the Los Angeles Police Department is aware of public assertions recently made by Leah Remini regarding a missing persons investigations involving Shelley Miscavige. In 2014, Los Angeles Police Department detectives assigned to the missing persons unit went to Shelley Miscavige's location and personally made contact with her and her attorney. Detectives found her to be alive and safe and subsequently closed the missing persons investigation. The missing persons unit handles adult missing cases throughout the city of Los Angeles and work out of the LAPD's Detective Bureau. The case was not investigated by Hollywood Division personnel and had no involvement by retired LAPD Commander Corey Palka. So they're definitely wiping their hands of that, saying like, everything was good in 2014. I don't know what else you want from us. Case closed.
So remember Richard Simmons? Well, I mean,
yes. Oh my God. I just watched the Hulu doc or whatever. Yeah.
So, people have expressed concerns over his well-being as well. And haven't they? I mean, like, what is the difference between going and doing a wellness check and going and doing a missing person? I wonder.
I would assume that a wellness check would be part of the missing person sort
Right.
of like, that would be like one of the steps, I assume.
Right. I mean, sometimes there are people who don't want to be found. Have you seen that? It turns out, I think I just saw that Carol Baskin's husband is alive.
I saw that, but I hadn't read it, and I was like, is this clickbait? Because I don't know if this is true or not.
I think it wasn't clickbait, but it's like, I mean, there are people who like they go into hiding, or and so I think, I guess here's my other thought too. I guess the question is she in Los Angeles? I thought at one point I heard she was in Florida. And also then what jurisdiction does it fall under?
And I think that's another thing too, because it's like, oh, this isn't our jurisdiction. It's not ours. So I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, if someone's an adult, I guess but like, don't they, like, if you would think, are they paying taxes? But again, you're saying they're protected under the church, but don't you have personal taxes you'd be filing every year?
Yeah. You would still have to. Yeah, definitely.
So I would think that like, if somebody isn't paying taxes, you could get the IRS involved. If you really,
that's true.
Like, couldn't there has to be you can't just totally disappear off of Earth unless you literally go live in a hole somewhere where nobody can find you and you have no like.
Right. Do they have kids?
I don't think so, but like I've actually never, let's see, David Miscavige, personal life. I love Wikipedia. Like, just like, I don't, personal life, marriage, family, and married to Shelley Miscavige. Doesn't look like they have any kids. I mean, that makes, so yeah, there's nobody.
Right. There's no like kid, because I feel like if you had kids, like then maybe they would launch their own sort of, and the police would take it differently. I wonder if it's just a matter of like somebody different needs to file a missing persons report against.
Well, I think Tony Ortega did try, and he was also shut down, and they said it was classified. So that's where it's like they kind of end up in this like loop where it's just like, it's classified. Well, I need to unclassify it. Well, you don't have the authority.
Right.
And so they do end up in this weird place. But I don't know if we'll ever find out what happened to Shelley. I know that Leah will not. I think she will continue on until they have some sort of answers. As far as Danny Masterson, the jury is asking questions, which is, always a good sign that like, that means they're probably trying to figure out like which charge, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
What do I take to be found for this versus this? So I like that they're asking questions.
So there's the other piece of this, right? We're going to come back with a verdict. You know this stuff better than I do. What are the chances that this is appealed?
Oh, I think I think like right now, every time you make an objection and you do those things, my understanding is like you're giving yourself more reason for appeal. So it's
Gotcha.
like, I think like all of these things, like let's say that, the Lisa Marie testimony had been entered, like that could have been, a reason. If they felt like there was too much Scientology at play, they'll come up with a reason. This will absolutely be appealed if he is convicted for sure. But here's the thing. Just like the Paul Haggis case was a civil case. Let's remember that this was not a criminal case. Danny Masterson is a criminal case. Even if let's say he's not found not guilty, that doesn't mean he's off the hook, because I told you earlier how there was that $400,000 settlement. I thought it was with the church. It was actually Danny. It says it was Danny who settled the $400,000 case with Jane Doe number 1.
So that was his money.
Yeah. So,
well, and that makes sense because, like, I mean, if you do something, so that's interesting.
Yeah. It said that, she signed an NDA and accepted a $400,000 settlement from Masterson, citing pressure from the actor and the church. So she felt pressured into signing this. But at the end of the day, I think he will be found guilty criminally. But even if he's not, they're still, I imagine, still going to pursue him civilly. And they're definitely going to pursue, I mean, maybe he's already included in this 2019 lawsuit with the Church of Scientology. I don't know if he's been named as a co-defendant in that or that's purely the church. But there's still, more to come. This is not
sure.
the end. So we'll see. But either way, there's like a lot more cases that we can get into. So I definitely want to have you back if you'll have me.
I would be thrilled to be back. Oh my God. I am honored to be here. I think it's really interesting stuff. And I think that, we had a billionaire lost yesterday here in Los Angeles. So I think that the money and power go hand in hand. And I think that, it's important to look at that. And I think we're sick of it.
I think so too. Well, thank you, Meredith. Where can everyone find you?
You can find me yelling into the void on TikTok and on Instagram at Meredith M. Lynch.
All right. Well, we will see you next time.